You guys know what time it is. It's time for the Final Fantasy IV Paladin Cecil, Palom, and Porom review. We're going to be going over those units today. White Mage Rosa, we won't be going over today. It's going to have an entirely separate video all on its lonesome because she is a unit you can obtain for free through the King Mog. So if you're looking for that information, that's going to be available in the next couple of days for you newer players who are new to the King Mog type of event in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, what you guys should be tackling, and all of that information there. And she is a pretty powerful free healer, and she does have some really nice TMR and super TMRs, but to keep this video not super long, we're going to be taking her out and reviewing her on her own. So Paladin Cecil, Palom, and Porom, very strong characters coming into Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and I want to take a moment to thank you guys so much for the support here. Likes and comments help out a lot, so if you can take the time to just go ahead, hit that like button, helps the channel a ton as far as wanting the algorithm to know that this channel actually exists on the internet. So that's super awesome there. And thank you guys once again for those of you who are becoming YouTube partners in the partner program, the channel membership program, I think it's actually called, with the join button, or supporting me on Patreon as well, so I continue to deliver this content for you. So with that out of the way, guys, thank you so much, and let's get into the review here. Palom and Porom are going to be some mages that we're going to have access to on the banner. They're the worst of the two units for sure, but let's go over them really quickly, and it won't take too long to go over these units here. We have the Prodigies of Mysidia as their TMR, gives you 50% magic, 20% MP, and increases the limit burst gauge of the equipped unit by 3 per turn. So this is just a little bit better version of CG Sakura's old TMR there, which was, I think, Sage of Mysidia or something of that nature, something very similarly titled. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but this is just a little bit better version. 1 LB crystal extra, 10% more magic compared to that one. This one's pretty all right, nothing super insane, nothing to lose your mind over. Their super TMR here is the Sage's Robes, which is 100 MP, 70 magic, 68 spirit, and 70% fire resistance here as well. They have a very strict fire theme going on with their characters, and this is something that you can wear for fire resistance. It's got some decent magic and spirit on it as well, and the 100 MP will help you out. It's nothing super insane to lose your mind over either. So as far as TMR and super TMR, nothing crazy there. Weapon selection, they have access to rods and bows and maces and staves and daggers. Armor selection, they have hats and helmets, as well as clothing and robes. Now let's get into their skills really quickly. They do have dual cast called Double Twin Magic, and they'll have unlockable quadruple cast here. They have the ability to put up a 20% magic damage mitigation for 3 turns and give your entire team a stack of AoE Mirage. That's a notable skill there that they do have. Now moving into their meme skill real quick, I want to touch on this because this skill you should never use, and it's called Twin Cast. It's going to randomly 74% of the time do a 4.2 times multiplier, 25% of the time it's going to cast Comment and do a 65% Spirit Break, and then 1% of the time is actually going to do a very powerful effect called Synchro Lapse, where it's going to restore 600 MP over 3 turns to the caster, so 200 per turn, and it's going to give a 30 times multiplier increase to that Pyroblast skill, so it'll be a 34.2 multiplier for 3 turns, as well as increasing the multiplier of Comet by 25. This is a joke skill, obviously, but if you ever somehow get this off, they're going to be pretty powerful as far as a damage dealer goes. Now let's get into their real skills here. We have Fire Force and Flame Force. These are their bread and butter skills. Flame Force is going to be pretty much their go-to skill always. Fire Force here is a non-elemental 4 times multiplier with a 80% fire imperil attached to it to all enemies. It also will give Flame Force a 0.5 multiplier increase here. Flame Force is going to be their go-to bread and butter Chaos Wave Awakened damage skill. It's fire elemental. It is AoE. It starts off at a 6 times multiplier every time you cast it. It gets an additional 3.0 multiplier, and it stacks all the way up to a total of a 24 times multiplier there. That's going to be their basic bread and butter skill there as far as damage dealing goes. They do have a little bit multiplier buffs to this skill. You can get the 0.5 if you want to from Fire Force. You don't really want to do that, but it is an option. They also have some passive buffs to it as well. We have Double Twin Magic, as we can see here, and then they do have 2 different cooldown skills, which is pretty interesting here. So we have Palom's Turn, which is a 2-turn cooldown available on turn 1. It's going to be a 120% fire imperil for 4 turns to all enemies, and it's going to unlock Bluff and Melt Force, which are unlockable skills, obviously, that we'll get to, and it also gives them Quadruple Twin Magic for 5 turns as well. Then there's Porom's Turn, which is a 2-turn cooldown available on turn 1, which does a pretty powerful regen effect, 5000 HP regen a turn for 4 turns, gives you 100% fire resistance buff for 4 turns, and then it unlocks not only quadruple cast twin magic for 5 turns, but also Cry and Mini Region, which are the more supportive aspects there. So they do have 2 different abilities that unlock quadruple magic for them, so quadricast of their skills here, which is going to be pretty powerful, especially if you're finding them dying a lot or something of that nature. There's no real time where they're just going to be like locked out of quadricast. They're going to have one of these 2 skills available because they're both 2-turn cooldowns there, and they do have a little bit of utility behind these unlocked skills. We have Twin Break, which is one of their only skills that they can't actually quadricast here, which gives them a 250% magic buff, unlocks quadruple twin magic again for 4 turns. It also will petrify yourself by 100% success right there, and then give you 200 MP as well. And then their final skill here is Concentrated Comet, 4-turn cooldown, available on turn 4. It's going to be a single hit 36 times multiplier to one enemy, and then it's going to give a 2 times multiplier increase to Fire Force and a 1.0 multiplier increase to Flame Force. So that's pretty much what they're going to be doing. You can see that they get 50% True Dual Wield Magic right there from their final passive, 50% additional True Dual Wield Magic at Twin Force at 6-star. They get some true double hand magic, but they do have base dual wield and true dual wield magic here, and another 1.0 multiplier increase to Flame Force here. So pretty much outside of these conditional skills we're going to be going over, we're done with this character's kit. Melt Force is a skill you probably won't cast. It just gives you a little bit of limit burst gauge. The limit burst is not good. Bluff is a magic buff to yourself with a MP refresh per turn. Cry is a 70% defense and spirit break for 3 turns all enemies. That also gives you LB gauge. And then Mini Region, even though it's called a region, it's actually a straight up heal, a very tiny heal when you cast it, and then it auto casts a Curaja the next turn. The potency of this though is not going to be that high because they are magic damage dealers that are focused on magic, so you're not really going to have a bunch of spirit on them like you would a healer. The actual magic spells they cast, not good. They do have full life in Curaga, but outside of that, you're not going to be casting Flare and Meteor. And then their limit burst here is Fire, Ice, and Lightning magic damage, which is a 42 times multiplier and costs 32 limit burst gauge crystals. This one isn't that good either because you need Fire, Ice, and Lightning in parallel, and you have to hope the boss doesn't resist or is absorbing any of these damaging types of skills. So a very basic character here, Palom and Porom. Basically, they're going to boil down to unlock Quadricast very easily and cast out Flame Force 99% of the time. They do have a little bit of utility here with the AoE Mirage. That's part of that skills that they can cast there with some magic damage mitigation, and they also do have a little bit of helpful healing, but it's not going to be that helpful in the long run due to the fact that you're going to be stacking magic instead of spirit. So moving on to the main platter here, we have Paladin Cecil. So let's talk about Paladin Cecil, an incredibly powerful magic tank that a lot of people have been looking forward to. And I know a lot of you guys out there, should I pull for Paladin Cecil? Let's answer those questions right now. So the TMR here is the Mark of the Paladin, an incredibly powerful TMR. All on its own. It gives you 30% spirit when equipped with a heavy shield and 30% spirit when equipped with heavy armor. And if you do have both of these things on, you're going to get both effects. So it's going to be 60% spirit there. And then it's always going to give you an additional 30% HP regardless of what sort of equipment you have on. So this thing is insane. It's super TMR tier TMR because it's 60% spirit, 30% HP if you're able to meet those conditions, which on the tank, very easy to throw a heavy shield on, heavy armor on, some solid options for you there. The super TMR here is the Mythgraven Blade, which gives you 20% spirit. It is a one-handed sword, and it also has 165 spirit on it as well. So 165 flat spirit with 20% spirit. Very powerful there. Option, but it's nothing you really need for Paladin Cecil because his TMR is just so powerful that 99% of the time you're having his TMR on. Now let's move down to his equipment selection here. You can see he can wear, as far as armors are concerned, light shields, heavy shields, hats, helmets, light armor, and heavy armor. So if you're using his TMR, you're going to be using heavy armor. You're not really missing out on the ability to throw on a robe, right, and losing that spirit from his TMR, and because you're using a robe, because he can't wear robes anyways. Weapon selection, he can use daggers, swords, axes, hammers, spears, and maces. So he's got some solid options here, right? He can wear like Lilith TMR. He can wear, I think it's Heavenly Technician Fid's TMR, that big old hammer with HP % on it. He can wear swords. He doesn't have access to staves, but you can go and throw daggers on. He's got a lot of solid options as far as gear is concerned, especially if you have something like the Fangbreaker or Lilith Mace. Moving into his kit here, you can see he's got a very small kit, and we'll go over exactly why it looks like it's a very small kit, because it's actually a huge kit. So the first skill he learns right away is Paladin's Protection Plus. It's a 5-turn cooldown, but you cannot use it until turn 5. And what it does do is it puts up his AoE magic cover, and then it gives him an HP regen 22,500 HP split over 3 turns. This is not his only way to put up his magic cover, but it's a magic cover that comes with an HP regen for him. Now, his other skill here, he's got a 100% chance to provoke for 4 turns to the caster with 35% damage mitigation. He's got Moonlight Bringer, which is a Stardust Ray chaining skill that's based off his spirit. Low multiplier though, so he's not going to be pounding out a bunch of damage with him, but he does have a light damage Stardust Ray chaining skill here. He also has Shadow Bringer, which is the same thing but dark elemental damage there. He has Saint Breaker, which is a 60% attack defense, magic, and spirit break for 3 turns to a single enemy, so he's got a little bit of breaking potential there. He's got Paladin's Protection here, which is a chance to cover all allies from magic damage with cover mitigation for 4 turns to himself there, so a 4-turn AoE cover, very powerful. And now let's move into his 2 cooldown skills here that he's got access to in his base form. The first one is Lunarian Might. It's a 5-turn cooldown available on turn 1. It mitigates magic damage taken by 75% for 2 turns to all allies, and increases the fire, ice, lightning, and light resistance of your entire party by 100% for 2 turns as well. The other skill he has access to here is Sacred Aura, which is a 6-turn cooldown available on turn 1, which is an AoE light elemental imbue to your entire party's physical attacks for 2 turns, as well as increasing limit burst gauge of your entire party by 10. So you can already start seeing these powerful skills here. Now let's move into his passives, and this full picture will start to come together here. So he's got Red Wings Leader, HP and MP 30% with some auto refresh there. He's got 70% dark resistance. He's immune to sleep and petrify and stop. He's got 30% HP and spirit passive. He's got a 50% draw attacks passive right here, 70% light resistance, defense, spirit, HP 20%, chance to counter magic attacks with normal attacks. So he's going to get in there like Charlotte does, but he's not going to be able to get in there and just take all of the time out of your life with 52 counters. He's going to get in there, he's going to hit the boss a couple of times, and he's going to build some limit burst gauge, and he's going to get out. He does have another 30% light and dark resist, which pumps his light and dark resist passives up to 100%, and he's going to also be immune to charm, paralysis, and confusion. So all the major ones: sleep, petrify, stop, paralyze, confusion, and charm, natively immune to them all. If you have a light or heavy shield on, he's going to get another 50% defense in spirit here. He also has a chance to counter both physical and magical attacks with Patrimonial Power here 6 times, which we'll get to that as well. He is a CG protagonist character, so he starts the fight with his limit burst filled up. And then this one right here, this is why you need his Super TMR or TMR equipped. Either one, his TMR is fantastic. This auto cast Overcoming Ordeals at the start of battle or after being revived, and we will get to that one. It is a very potent skill for him to use. Now he has also a defense 20% passive, and then his final skill here is 40% spirits and chance to ignore fatal damage 100% when HP is above 1%. So Patrimonial Power here, the first thing we'll see, the thing that he can counter up to 6 times a turn with, increases the limit burst gauge of your entire team by 2. So he's got a pretty powerful LB gauge generation thing here, as well as being able to get in there and counter with a physical attack that's going to nudge some limit burst crystals out of the enemies that you're countering as well. So he's got some very passive limit burst gauge filling for your entire party. He does start with his own limit burst at full, and then he's got Overcoming Ideals here, so it enables some skills to the caster. This is going to be where all of the rest of his skills come from. It enables Into the Light, Light Defense, Light Recovery, Light Resurrection, Light Wall, Paladin's Blade Attack, Paladin's Blade Magic, and also enables Double Paladin Blade, which is going to allow you to dual cast some skills here. So let's go down and see if we can find Double Paladin Blade. Floating around down in here. Here's Double Paladin Blade. Double Paladin Blade is going to allow you to dual cast a bunch of different skills here for you. Now, the first one we're going to see here are his light-based skills: Light Wall, Light Recovery, Light Resurrection, Light Defense, Paladin's Blade Attack, Paladin's Blade Magic, and then he's got also Into the Dark. So these are going to be some skills here, and as you can see, the skills that he normally has access to, the non-form skills, are also a part of this native dual cast that he's going to have. So you can mix and match his general skills, his light skills, and his dark skills. He's a little bit complicated at first when you think about it, but we're going to explain it real quickly here for you. So these skills right here, you can think of him having access to when you start the fight, all of these skills right here, and then all of his light form skills. So this is going to be something that you're going to have access to. It's going to be a good time here with Into the Light, Into the Dark. You can be able to pop these off. So here we go with Into the Light, Into the Dark, all of this good stuff. So Into the Dark here is the first skill that you're gonna have access to, in addition to all of the other stuff. I want to go over this one first. So this one is going to be a mitigate damage taken by 75% for a single turn to the caster. Then it's gonna enable triple Paladin Blade, which is gonna be triple cast for him, and then it's gonna basically enable all of the skills from the dark form. So you'll be able to use Into the Dark every single turn, and you'll be able to swap back and forth between the light and the dark form. So what you'll want to do on turn 1, before we go over any of these light skills, since you will have dual cast on turn 1 instead of triple cast, you're going to cast Into the Dark to get the 75% damage mitigation for 1 turn, and unlock your triple cast, and then you're gonna pick probably your AoE cover, right? You're gonna pick your AoE cover here, or maybe if you're not using them for a cover tank, you use them for a provoke tank, you provoke with that skill as well. If you have some other, sort of aspect you want him to do where he's 100% draw attacks, you can do some other stuff. But if you want to use him as a traditional tank, you pick one of his 2 tanking skills, and then you pick this Into the Dark skill right here. This is going to give you that massive 75% damage mitigation on top of all of that stuff, and then it's going to unlock triple cast and then all of his dark skills for the following turn. But before we get into the dark skills, let's talk about the rest of his light skills right here. We have Light Wall, which is fire, ice, lightning, and light resistance of 80% for 5 turns, all allies. Light Recovery, which is an AoE 4000 HP heal. Light Resurrection, which revives 1 ally from death to full HP. Light Defense, which is 180% defense and spirit buff for 5 turns, all allies. Paladin's Blade Attack, which does a little bit of damage and then also inflicts a 65% attack break. And then Paladin's Blade Magic, which does a little bit of magic damage and then it inflicts a 65% magic break to the enemy there. Now, we'll move into Triple Paladin Blade, and then Triple Paladin Blade is where things start heating up. This is where you can start doing a bunch of cool stuff, because you're going to start being able to pop back and forth between your provokes, your covers, any of your generic skills up here, right? Your Stardust Ray Chains, any of this stuff, as well as whatever form you're in, whether it be light or dark. And then what you'll start doing here is you're going to start triple casting. You're going to be able to pick 2 skills of whatever you want, and then the other thing you want to cast is either going to be Into the Light or Into the Dark. This allows you to keep the 75% damage mitigation up all the time. Even though it only lasts 1 turn, you're going to always have access to either Into the Light as a skill or Into the Dark as the skill of your choice. So you're going to be able to Into the Light, Into the Dark, and then 2 skills of your choice. Whether if you're in dark form, you can pick, your mix and matching of dark skills and your generic skills. If you're in light form, you'll have access to your light skills and your generic skills. You won't be able to mix and match light and dark skills. You won't have access to those at the same time. But you will have access to your generic skills in one of the 2 categories of light or dark. So his dark skills here is Dark Wall. He does inflict damage to himself when casting the dark skills, but it's not that big of a deal. So Dark Wall here, 20% HP damage to himself, but then he does a water, wind, earth, and dark resist buff of 80% for 5 turns to all allies. Dark Recovery inflicts 20% HP damage to himself, and then he gives everyone in your party 100 MP. Dark Resurrection, he does 20% HP damage to himself, but he puts an auto revive of 100 HP auto revive on a target for your choice for 5 turns. Dark Attack does 20% damage to himself and does 180% attack and magic buff. Then he's got a Dark Knight's Defense Break here, which does, you've guessed it, 20% damage to himself and does a 65% defense break. And then he's got a matching thing here, 65% spirit break. And then he also has access to Into the Light. And that's pretty much how his kit works. And the final thing we need to go over his limit burst, which is the Knight of Duality, because he is Paladin Cecil here, Paladin of the Twin Moons. Knight of Duality here, it costs 36 limit burst crystals, does a 24 times mod of based off of your spirit, and then puts up a 5-turn 50% damage mitigation to your entire party, and increases the limit burst gauge to everyone except for himself by an additional 5. So Paladin Cecil, I'm going to go over all of his stuff again really quickly, like how you can use him, what makes him so strong, why do people want him so much. He does a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of stuff he can do. He's got a lot of actions he can take, and he's going to be very, 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 very tanky in a lot of parties, due to the fact that he can start off with 75% damage mitigation, general damage mitigation, way higher than any other general damage mitigation we can have in the game, as well as cover mitigation on top of that. And general mitigation is so important, and cover mitigation as well, because they apply to everything in the game. Doesn't matter if it's a physical attack, doesn't matter if it's a magic attack, doesn't matter if it's a fixed attack, which fixed attacks are pretty notorious for getting around types mitigation like general mitigation and magic mitigation, those don't work on fixed attacks. That's why people and players get hit so hard by that stuff, is because it just doesn't work, right? General magic mitigation just don't work on that stuff. But this 75% mitigation he gets from going into light form or dark form every single turn applies on everything, as well as the cover mitigation if you're using him as a cover tank. Very, very, very strong. So that's going to make him extra tanky, and he's got all the stats to back it up, all the HP, defense, and spirit in the world that you want to back that tanking capability up. On top of being able to be a tank, though, he's got all this other utility. Very strong at filling up your limit burst gauge for your entire party every turn with Patrimonial Power in his counters. Very strong at elemental resistance buffs. If you've seen, he's got 4 of the elements in the light form and the other 4 of them in the dark form. So he's got water, wind, earth, dark, light, fire, ice, and lightning. 80% buffs for 5 turns to the entire party. He can HP heal a little bit. He can revive. He's got 180% attack, defense, magic, and spirit buffs on his team. He's got 65% attack, magic, defense, and spirit breaks if you need him to do that every once in a while as an emergency breaker. He's got some MP recovery here as well, and he's got auto revive. Very, very, very strong character. And then the final piece of the puzzle is he's got the limit burst here for 50% general damage mitigation for your entire party. Now, he can do this on turn 1, and this is where Paladin Cecil starts becoming pretty awesome as well. Is if you make him like a draw attacks build, maybe you don't need to bring him as a cover tank. Maybe it's a fight where you need to bring an AoE physical cover tank. So you take like Galoof, or you take Warrior of Light, Warrior of Light. Just Warrior of Light. I want to call him a Warrior of Light something. Awaken Warrior of Light. You take Awaken Warrior of Light or some other tank that's going to AoE cover for you, and you make Paladin Cecil your draw attacks tank. This kind of means that Paladin Cecil doesn't really need to do anything specific. He doesn't need to cast cover or provoke or anything. So he's got all these actions. Just kind of do whatever you want. You can go into light form, dark form over and over and over. He's already provoking for you passively for the draw attacks build. And that's where he goes from like being absolutely insane to absolutely insane with that ability to just have 75% damage mitigation at all times as a draw attack tank, and do 2 other things of your choice whenever it is that you want. He also starts with his limit burst, so he can, as a draw attack tank, just use his limit burst on turn 1. He can be your 50% damage mitigation character with no effort in that role on turn 1 if that's what you want him to do. So he's very, very flexible. He's got a bunch of different elemental resistance buffs and all this super amazing stuff starting turn 2, and he's got a very solid opening in with all the different stuff he can do with the 75% damage mitigation from Into the Dark / Light, as well as being able to put up his cover or provoke or whatever it is that you need. He also can go ahead and be a support chainer with his Start Astray chaining frame skills. So that's going to be Paladin Cecil. I hope I explained it well enough for you guys, because he is a little daunting at first look here with his entire look at all of these skills that he's got in his kit. He's a very, very powerful character. Now, do you need to go for Paladin Cecil? I will tell you guys this much: there's a lot more magic tanks in global. If you don't have any of the recent magic tanks and you're looking for an upgrade, you won't be steered wrong with Paladin Cecil. There's a lot of people who have been waiting specifically for Paladin Cecil because of that reason. Now, if you have any of the newer tanks, you happen into them, right? You're using someone like Lucas or even like CG Charlotte, you don't have to pull for Paladin Cecil, but he is incredibly powerful, and a lot of people use him because he is that strong, because he's a different form of power creep, where instead of just, you know, a character does higher numbers than everyone else, he's the form of power creep where he does a lot of different things all at one time. So he's got a lot of options, and he can do all of those options, which is the most important thing with his triple cast over and over and over. And he does have the numbers thing too, because he does have that 75% generic damage mitigation. So that's gonna be Paladin Cecil. Once again, guys, you don't have to pull for him if you don't like him. If you're, you know, you're totally sold on your magic tank and you don't really want him, and you feel comfortable, then don't go for it. But if you don't have someone that's pretty new, right, you can do like I think like White Knight Noel and CG Charlotte and Lucas you can get behind with. But if you're using like Awaken Rain, if you're using like maybe even like Chow's pretty good. He just got enhancements, but those characters don't come anywhere close to the other options that the other characters do, as far as the types of different supportive aspects that the newer magic tanks can do, because they've all kind of slowly creeped up that way. You might want to go for Paladin Cecil. Obviously, if you don't have any magic tanks at all, this guy's absolutely insane, and it's one of the best and most necessary roles in the game to get, and he's just insane at it. He's just absolutely insane. And as far as future goes, like who else would come out next? Who else can do magic tanking? Alexander Charlotte, unless we get some sort of global exclusive character, is going to be the next magic tank I think that we should be looking forward to, which should be around anniversary time. So that's going to be a thing there as well. And then as far as the banner itself here, 2 rainbows, Palom and Porom, in my opinion, pretty much a dud. No reason to go for them. They're the sad consolation prize of the banner, to be sure. You kind of really don't want them. If you get them, you have a mage, congratulations, but they're locked to fire and they're not insane. Whereas the future banners, like Alexander Charlotte, should be on like a quadruple rainbow banner compared to this double rainbow banner, but also it's around anniversary time, so who knows what sort of giveaways or anything that we're going to be having around anniversary. That's when that should come out. If this helped you guys out, let me know down in the comment section below. Once again, full of them algorithms. Let me know if you're pulling for Paladin Cecil and why, and who you're going to be running with Paladin Cecil, because he has a lot of cool team comps that you can run with him. Look forward to the White Mage Rosa, as well as the stuff you should be getting from the King Mog when it comes out, because White Mage Rosa has some cool stuff on her as well. There's going to be an item in there that you're definitely not going to want to miss out on, so look forward to that content. Subscribe if you're looking for future Final Fantasy Brave Exvius or future Final Fantasy content in general. And thank you guys once again for the support. You guys are amazing people out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.